This morning's special guest was a special agent. Meet him, coming up next on All American People. Good morning. Welcome to All American People. This morning we're at the 2010 Nonprofit of the Year, as voted on by visitors to allamericancities.com, the American Red Cross. We're visiting the Coastal South Carolina Chapter's Emergency Operations Center, and we're visiting with the honorary life board member and current board member, Art Roral. Good morning, Art.
Good morning.
Thanks so much for coming in this morning.
Well, thank you.
The excitement of this magnificent facility, the Emergency Operations Center, it is incredible.
It's one of the best I've ever seen.
It's got to be. And to think about, of course, for you and your almost 30 years of service as a volunteer to this chapter, to see about some of the changes that have happened over these 30 years must be very special.
It is really to see what great changes have been made. The great number of people that have come through here.
Lots of volunteers.
Absolutely.
The American Red Cross just could not operate without volunteers.
You're right there.
Mm-hmm. Art, real quick about yourself. Are you originally from the area?
I lived here since 1982.
Okay.
And joined the Red Cross in 1983.
You grew up where?
In Minnesota.
Oh, wow. Golly, ended up down here by way of a number of places. I know, of course, I've been able to spend some time learning a little bit about your life, but had you thought about Myrtle Beach, that this would ever be a place you'd end up?
I never even thought I'd ever live in South Carolina, to be honest with you.
Growing up in Minnesota?
Had no idea, no thought of ever being there.
Probably didn't even have any idea where it was, I guess, growing up in Minnesota.
Oh, I think I knew where it was. But
one of the exciting things about reading about you, Art, was your service in the U.S. Army and the 14th Armored Division during World War II.
Well, it was a very interesting period of time.
I bet it was. I bet it was. I believe the 14th Armored Division's other kind of its nickname was the Liberators. Can you share with viewers how the division got that nickname?
Well, when we crossed the Rhine on a pontoon bridge, that actually wound up breaking the back of the resistance of the German army. Mm-hmm. And our division traveled about 30 miles per day. Mm. And when we finally got down in the vicinity of Moosburg, which is near Munich, there was a large prisoner of war camp that had not only Americans and other soldiers from other countries, plus a lot of displaced persons. I think there was something like 30,000 Americans in that place.
30,000?
That's right. Mm. And the others were all displaced persons. Actually, personally, I did not get into the thing because I was in the reserve at that particular moment. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But the people, the soldiers came back, and I remember one man came over to our half-track, and we sat down and we had a little lunch with them. Lunch, I guess, to them it was lunch, I mean, because they were so hungry they could eat anything that we gave them. Oh, of course, yeah. We gave everything we had to them. Oh, yeah. Because they had been on starvation rations for quite some time. Mm. Although Bruce Smith had not been there long. He had been shot down as an aviator. And of course, Bruce Smith was an All-American football player from Minnesota.
Right.
So I knew of him more
right.
than I found out that it was him. And one thing he did, he took the name and address and phone number for everybody's parents and personally made a phone call to my mother and the other people as well.
Wow.
You know, that I thought was great. That's what made a man like him he does a great job.
That's tremendous. That must have been an incredible feeling just to see not only the 30,000 Americans, but to be a part of helping so many displaced persons.
Oh, it's hard to believe that these people were actually incarcerated in that amount, in that number.
Right.
It defies imagination, actually.
Mm, mm.
No.
Did you come back to the States immediately? We think the war ended in May of '45. Did you come right back?
No, because I spoke some German, they left me behind, and we got everybody. The division had loaded up to be transferred to Japan area, or in that direction anyhow, and that's the day Japan surrendered. The division left, and I left behind, and then he sent me to Garmisch-Partenkirchen.
Oh.
And the billets was a hotel where you had a room, your linen changed every day, white tablecloths.
Every day?
Every day. It was like going from hell to heaven.
And you were what? You were just in your early 20s, late?
Oh, yes, I came in as 18.
Right.
And so I was
you were
very, very young.
Early 20s.
Right.
That must have been incredible.
It was a great experience, actually, and to be with so many people. My division, my platoon, we lost 24 people in one day, 6 hours, 8 hours.
Mm.
But I was one of the original people back, stayed with it until the very end.
The trip back across the Atlantic Ocean must have been incredible.
Oh, yes, I went separately, not from the division. I came from Amsterdam to New York City.
Right.
In January of '46, the late December, and it was one of the roughest rides you ever got. I rode an elevator all day.
Just
all
up,
night as well.
Up and down. What? How long would that trip have taken?
About 21 days.
Is that right?
But we were up and down, up and down. I sat in the bow of the ship, one on starboard, one shoulder, one starboard, and the other on the port side. And that's how far up I was. We stayed there 16 hours a day.
That is incredible. Wow. Well, not long after getting back, of course, we highlighted you're an honorary life board member here of the Coastal South Carolina chapter of the American Red Cross. But prior to your almost 30 years of service here, you served our country in a different way for exactly 30 years. I was fascinated to hear June 6, 1949. Share with viewers what happened on that day.
Well, on that day, that was interesting. I reported for duty, and I walked into the building, and I had a room number I had to report to. I sat down, and nobody came. Nobody came. I thought, this is going to be a very small class. Finally, I said, well, maybe the FBI does make changes, so I better find out where they actually are located. So I made a round. I couldn't find anybody. Finally, somebody said, oh, they're in room so-and-so. So I walked in, and there were about 30 people in there, and the man who was in charge says, where have you been? I said, I've been in room so-and-so, and I'm waiting for everybody else to come. So that was my start.
That was your start at the Federal Bureau of Investigation.
Right.
Amazing. And to think, and then you started where? Did you start back home in Minnesota?
Oh, no. I went to training school in Washington and Quantico.
Okay.
Then went to Buffalo. From Buffalo to Omaha. Then I was on a road trip for a year. So I went from North Platte, Nebraska to Waterloo, Iowa, to Cedar Rapids, Iowa, to Burlington, Iowa, Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and then to New York City.
No. That was all in the course of a number of years.
Yeah, but, I moved 10 times in 10 years.
Is that right? Service with the FBI, was that common with agents that they would have to travel around a lot, or?
Well, I was single, so that made a difference. I mean, they let me go every place I could possibly go, I think.
Right, right. That was mutually beneficial.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
enjoyed it. I'd do it again.
Well, that's a great way to be about anything. Of course, the other exciting aspect is you did find a place where you ultimately, in the D.C. area, I believe in Alexandria.
Oh, I got transferred up to Alexandria to work one case and stayed 21 years.
Is that right? Golly.
Yeah.
Do you remember that case?
Oh, that was the assassination of John F. Kennedy. In fact, I was the first one in the office to know about it because the phone lines were so busy. It took one person, the wife of one of the agents, 2 hours to get through. And we didn't realize that being late in the day, that what the problem was. So then we got a phone call that they had found the weapon, and would we go to Armco, which is the largest distributor of foreign arms in the United States. They had all this stuff shipped in from all the countries. And I had known Sam Cummings, and we were checking invoices and looking for somebody had purchased the gun from the Texas area. We had been there about 2 hours, 3 hours, and Sam came in and said, "You can stop." And I looked, and he looked at me and he said, "Yes, I just saw the gun on television, and that gun was imported to Chicago. In fact, there was actually 500 guns shipped to Chicago to this particular dealer there. So you don't have to do any work anymore, because you just go there and you'll find that where that gun came from." So I called Chicago. They immediately went down there, and when I don't know how many hours it took before they actually found it, that Lee Harvey Oswald had actually purchased that gun.
In Chicago?
Well, I don't know where,
or
but
somewhere, but it came through Chicago.
Yeah,
right.
He was the one that actually had to go purchase that gun.
That is incredible. Sam had that, he could see it on TV and know exactly where it came from.
He had a very retentive memory, and he knew his work and knew it well.
Right.
And that was imports, and he knew who was going to do what and what they were selling. I was always amazed at his abilities.
He probably proved to be a pretty good source over the years.
Oh, anything I needed that I knew he would know, I would call him. No question about it.
That's amazing. We had a guest on last week who shared with us, actually she was the daughter of one of the guests who had worked with the FBI formerly, and highlighted that many of the agents around her had little tricks that they would utilize. One was mentioned that he would regularly go to his barber and would pick up tips from barbers. Were there folks there in the, not to give out any secrets of the trade, but how did you go about, surely you had men like Sam Cummings and others?
Well, you would go to see him regularly, and they knew who you were. They would talk to you, and you would ask them questions. But they were so knowledgeable of the area that they gave us the information quite freely.
Oh yeah.
They were really sources of information, something that you couldn't get otherwise.
Right.
And so it paid to know a lot of people in the area. The longer you stayed, the more sources you had.
Yes.
Unlike on a Friday afternoon when you were going to go home at 5 o'clock, at 4:30 you get a phone call. The best thing you do is you call a source, get the information, handle it, and then go on home.
Right. Wow, Art. That must have been amazing.
Well, it was a great 30 years. I'd do it again.